I'm not going to be able to read my own writing. I don't think I've written down as much ever, and I've moved to digital, so it's actually harder to follow my own writing. So I just introduce myself. I'm also quite new in my role. It's been a year since I was appointed as the public sector design lead, leading out on the life events program, and so I'm working very closely with IFA. And I think the life events may actually tackle some of the issues that come up today, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And I realize I'm the only thing standing between you and your lunch, so I'm going to try and be kind of remember what I want to say. I want to be succinct and hopefully offer some hope and inspiration. I think everything we heard here is so exciting. The progress we're making, especially around design systems, I don't think we realize how important they are. I heard someone say recently, a good definition of design is kind of the rendering of intent. So the intent to do something right, and there's not a designer out there who does not care deeply about accessibility. The problem is when we're translating that into digital services, when we're involving people outside of the design realm. I think the systems that we're developing are going to help maintain that rendering of intent. It's going to bring things, good practice, better accessibility online. There's a couple of stories that came to mind as I heard people talking, and one is, it was around the last session where we're talking about kind of keeping up with the standards, keeping up with the requirements, we started with the reports and the documents. There's a quote by Winston Churchill. He says, big reports defend themselves from ever being read. I don't like reading reports. And back when I was a medical device designer, I was in a very kind of patent heavy, and this reminds me of the patent world. You know, everybody's trying to niggle their way around patents and kind of reading kind of very complicated language to make sure you're not infringing. And I took the approach that I'm actually going to come up with things that are more innovative than anybody else has ever thought of. So I'm going to bypass patents and try to go for radical innovation. And I think that could be our approach with accessibility. Let's not try and just conform. Let's kind of create the best experiences. Let's go so far that we don't even have to maybe align to standards because we're so far ahead. We've got excellence. And as I heard, and I think, no offense to anybody else, but Brian's demonstration this morning was the most insightful presentation that I've heard, not just today, but anywhere. And I think people's eyes were opening to it. I've had the privilege of working very closely with a lot of people living with disabilities and designing products for them, and I recognize that feeling. It's like penny drops, as Brian said himself. Let me go to life events. A lot of people don't know what we're talking about when we're talking about life events. Aoife flashed up kind of having a baby, kind of getting married, getting divorced, end of life. I think it's the biggest thing that this government has ever done. We've now got cabinet approval of about 3 weeks ago. So every minister has signed off on the life events program. And what that is turning civil service and public service inside out. So we're starting with the needs of citizens at the time where they need us most, those big moments in their life, when they have a baby, when they're getting married, when they're getting divorced, when they're moving to Ireland, when they're diagnosed or develop a disability, things like that. And we've already started, and we're starting with people, so we're mapping their journey from, for example, having a baby, from kind of when they're anticipating bringing a baby into the world, positively or negatively, when it's happened to them, all the way through registering births and finding schools, all the way through to when that child starts school and the parents have to decide, do we go back to work, do we stay at home? We're starting by interviewing kind of one-to-one interviews with people from across Ireland. The difference is in this approach, and I think it's a problem that we've had for a long time, is that if you're trying to design for everyone, you're designing for nobody. You know, we're daunted by the complexity of citizens. There's just so many to consider. So we're very much taking we're calling it an amplified needs first approach. Some might call it the extreme user approach, because we know we're going to get the best insight, and Brian's talk exemplified that, and everybody here knows that. The insight is at the edges. And so we're working with various groups. Munster Technological University have a brilliant inclusion team there in the Nimbus Centre. They're carrying a lot of research for us. Our design agencies are carrying out that research, and we're getting the insight. And it's not just kind of at one extreme. So if we think of the bell curve, it's not just people living with disabilities or the people who find it most difficult. We're actually going to the other extreme as well. And if we're talking about kind of leadership buy-in, kind of one of the most daunting pieces of user research I've ever had to do was sit down with our minister, my boss, Pascal Donoghue, who did user research with us on our government digital wallet. And he's actually, in a way, disabled in his own life, extremely busy, extremely cautious about security, extremely complex man who's demonstrated similar issues to kind of that old lady who's 80 who's kind of got this purse that she's had for years. So we're drawing insights from people who just find it most difficult. And as Brian was speaking, I think it was the clearest use case of the life events approach. And I was talking to John at the break. The blind pension. When we are talking about life events, we're talking about joined up government. We're talking about proactive services. You know, how can we be more proactive? We know Brian has a visual impairment. You know, he's told us this numerous times. We know when he's going to retire. We should be able to just put that money in his account. Plain and simple. So rather than kind of trying to make forms accessible, we have to simplify the whole thing. And that's part of our one of our principles, kind of we'll design for simplicity. So I think we can bypass a lot of the accessibility problems if we just remove the pieces that are difficult. That's what we mean by joined up government. Kind of, if we know when you were born, where you were born, how much you make, where you live, what medical conditions you have, we can and have to be more proactive in what we do. And so that's kind of the simplest way I can explain what life events is. And so I'd welcome anybody to come and work with us. We're looking for kind of people with lived experience around those life events that we're working on. The other thing that jumped out at me, and again, sorry to pick on you, Brian, and I'm not sure if this is controversial or if I'm going to upset anybody by this, but for the first time in my life, I gave a presentation and I got a complaint. I triggered somebody. I might have triggered a few people. And the video I showed was some of the work I was doing as part of a television show called The Big Life Fix, which is taking people with a medical condition or disability, showing how hard it is on their lives, and then what we invent to make their lives better. And someone said I need to put a trigger warning on it. I was like, it just didn't make sense to me. So is the trigger warning against a disability, or what is it? Kind of making people who were finding things difficult, making their lives easier, is that the trigger warning? And it just struck me that, and I spoke to kind of people in that organization, the problem is oftentimes our technical departments aren't exposed to real life. You know, they're not exposed to the people they're designing for. So we're giving them standards, we're giving them instructions as to be more accessible, but we're not exposing them to what it feels like to have a disability, to live with a disability. And I think we need to find ways of bringing the Brians, bringing people who actually use our services into to meet our developers. I've done it in the past, and I've seen a room full of developers crying as they're hearing someone's story around the condition they're living with. And I think if we could do that, make it real, I think that's where we get change. At the moment, it's quite distant. We're following paper, we're following regulations, and it just doesn't feel real. When I was a product designer designing kind of random things, kind of unimportant things, the way you got buy-in was to bring the CEO and the senior decision makers out to the field to see the problem. There's a famous story of Oral-B where they brought the CEO into a bathroom to watch a kid brushing their teeth. And the CEO thought a toothbrush for kids was just a mini version of an adult's toothbrush. You know, it's a perfectly logical rationale. But actually, if you watch a child brushing their teeth, they do it completely differently. They hold it differently. They've got a smaller grip. And they said, this is how we might do it in future. They changed the design and they became the best-selling toothbrush in the world. The CEO was completely bought into the insight. So how do we get the CEO to really understand and really see? How do we get the developers to know, to connect them with the purpose? That's what this is, it's purpose. And also possibly controversial. I don't know if there is a such thing as accessible design. It's just good design. That's the lens we wrote our design principles document and our action plan. It's just good design, and good design works for everybody. Maybe it's the lazy designer in me. Make something so accessible that you don't have to stick to standards, and sell design. And we're having a huge amount of success in our work doing that. Next week, I'm leaving here to prepare a presentation for the most senior team in the Department of Education, the most senior team in Justice, the most senior team in Transport. I'm not talking about accessibility, I'm talking about good design. But at the end of those talks, they'll understand that it's not kind of, it's not just making things pretty, it's not just making things innovative, it's actually making things work for everybody. So I think I've brought you up to lunch. I hope I've covered everything. I'll say it again, it was inspiring, and hopefully if I can be of assistance, please reach out, and if you'd like to be involved in this life events work, I think it should be our mission for the country. I think we can transform the country for the better, and I'm very excited, and thank you very much.